The crystal chandeliers at the Whitaker estate threw diamonds of light across the ballroom as the band fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the marble staircase where Naomi Whitaker, the billionaire's only daughter, stood in a silver dress that caught every flash from 100 cameras. Beside her, a tall man in a clean black tuxedo squeezed her hand. He looked nervous but calm, like someone trying to remember a script. Naomi smiled, lifted the microphone, and announced, "Everyone meet my fiancé." Gasps rippled through the room. Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker, Chief Daniel Whitaker of Atlanta and Lagos, and Dr. Ngozi Whitaker, rose from the head table with controlled smiles. The family's partners from Houston and Abuja, actors, pastors, politicians, and rivals all stood to applaud. The orchestra struck a soft chord. A waiter almost dropped a tray. The news cameras zoomed in. But then a security guard hurried up the side aisle, whispered something into Chief Whitaker's ear, and placed a small plastic bag in the father's palm. Inside the bag was a torn photograph, stained and creased. The picture showed the same man standing beside Naomi now, but not in a tuxedo. In the photo he wore a ripped hoodie with a sleeping bag behind him, under the bridge on North Avenue in Atlanta. He held a cardboard sign. The words were smudged but clear enough: "Hungry, anything helps." Chief Whitaker's smile vanished. His face tightened the way a door tightens before the lock snaps. He raised his hand to stop the music. "Naomi," he said softly, a thunder that carried across the ballroom without the microphone. "Step away from him." Chairs scraped. The room hushed so fast it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Naomi didn't move. The man beside her stood taller, jaw set, eyes steady. "Who is he?" Chief Whitaker asked, voice even. "Really?" Naomi looked at her father, then at the man, and whispered into the mic, "His name is Malik." The security guard lifted another item, a folded, weather-stained note. Chief Whitaker read it. His eyes hardened. He nodded toward the exits. The doors slid shut with a heavy click. "And tonight," he said, facing the crowd, "we will all find out whether my daughter has brought home a prince or a lie." The band members froze. Cameras kept rolling. Naomi felt the whole room tilt. She gripped Malik's hand, and for a heartbeat he squeezed back, not like an actor, but like someone who had found a place to stand. The chandelier light flickered once. Then everything slowed, like the story had decided to rewind. 2 months earlier, Atlanta felt hotter than usual. Heat rose from the sidewalk and wrapped the city in a thick, tired blanket. Naomi parked her car and stepped into the shadow under the North Avenue bridge. She had told no one where she was going. Even her driver thought she was at a charity board meeting. She wasn't dressed like a billionaire's daughter. She wore jeans, sneakers, and a baseball cap pulled low. She looked like any other young woman trying to mind her business. Under the bridge, life moved at a different speed. There were people who had made homes out of tents and shopping carts. A woman hummed to herself while sorting cans. A man laughed at a quiet joke only he could hear. Another man carefully folded a blanket as if it were silk, not a thin square of tired fabric. Naomi had come here before with the foundation, but always with cameras and security and speeches. Today she came alone to do something that made no sense, and yet it made more sense than anything she had done in a year. She saw him at the far end of the bridge, standing as if he had grown there, tall and lean, with shoulders that looked tired but not broken. He held a cardboard sign, but he wasn't shaking it at cars. He was reading a paperback book with the cover nearly gone. His beard was neat. His eyes were the kind that scanned a place once and knew where the danger might come from. He was barefoot in old sneakers. His hoodie had holes. But he stood like someone who used to stand in better places. Naomi stopped in front of him. "Hi," she said. He lowered the book and studied her. "Hello. What are you reading?" He showed her the broken cover. "A story about a man who lies to survive," he said. "And then the lie becomes his life." She nodded. "I'm Naomi." "Sure you are," he said, not rude, just careful. "I'd like to hire you," she said. Now he smiled, slow, one eyebrow lifting. "To do what?" "To be my fiancé." He blinked. Then he laughed, a single breath that sounded like it had been locked away for years. "That's new." "I'm being serious," she said. "I need someone who can learn fast, listen well, and follow a plan. It will be for 30 days. 30 days, he repeated like he was trying the words on. "What's the pay?" She named a number. His face didn't change. That told her more about him than any story would have. Many people would have said yes too fast. He didn't. "What's the catch?" he asked. "You'll have to live as my fiancé, publicly. There will be rules. There will be a schedule. There will be questions from family and friends. My father will test you. He tests everyone. And if I fail? You walk away with the pay. No charges. No tricks. And if I pass? She held his gaze. Then you help me stop a marriage I don't want. My parents want me engaged before I take over the family company at the end of the quarter. They believe a public engagement means stability. The board is watching. There's a merger on the line. They're insisting I choose a certain type of fiancé. She didn't say the name of the banker her parents preferred. She didn't need to. And you want the opposite, he said. I want the truth, she said, surprising herself. Even if we have to borrow it. He went quiet. Nearby, a bus groaned past. The city hummed above the bridge. He looked at his book, then at her sneakers, then at the careful way she held herself like a dancer who had forgotten how to breathe. Why me? He asked. Because you didn't beg, she said. You read. You watched. You stood. You looked like someone who could carry a hard story without letting it crush him. He closed the book. My name is Malik, he said. Malik Adeyemi. Do we have a deal, Malik? Not until I see the plan. They sat on the curb. She opened a folder from her tote bag. Schedules, event lists, a simple backstory that wouldn't invite too many questions. She had a stylist's card. A temporary apartment. A driver. A speech coach. A small ring that wouldn't look cheap but wouldn't threaten anyone either. She had prepared everything except the part that mattered most. The way he would look at her in public, like someone who didn't just stand beside her for money. He read the plan. He didn't rush. He asked good questions. What would they say about how they met? At a bookstore, she suggested. He shook his head. Too easy to check. At a church bazaar, he tried then changed it. At a food truck festival, loud, crowded, picture-proof. They practiced small talk under the bridge while cars slammed over their heads. She told him her favorite food was jollof rice the way her mother made it in Lagos, with smoke and bragging rights. He said his favorite was the first hot meal after a cold night, any food, any place as long as it arrived when he needed it. She almost smiled. He didn't notice. He agreed to meet her the next morning at a small hotel across from Piedmont Park. She left him with a ride voucher and a promise. He watched her walk away like a man measuring the distance to a cliff and deciding whether to jump. The next week moved like a fast drum. Haircut. She. New clothes that fit as if he had always owned them. Lessons on which fork to use. Names of people with power and people with whispers. How to laugh softly at a weak joke. How to stand still when a camera flashed and not look angry. How to walk beside Naomi, not in front of her, not behind her. He learned fast. Some things he already knew. In one photo session, the photographer asked him to hold Naomi's waist. He did it the way you hold glass. Careful, respectful, steady. Naomi expected to feel like she was acting. Instead she felt safe. On the first family dinner, Dr. Ngozi asked Malik about his parents. He told her the truth in a careful shape. He grew up between a hard table and a soft grandmother. He had worked construction, kitchens, delivery routes. He had loved math and music. Some things had fallen apart. He didn't say why. He didn't lie about being rich. He didn't brag about being poor. He said what he could say without setting a fire. Dr. Ngozi watched his hands as he spoke. Fathers listen to words, mothers read hands. Malik's hands told a story of work and loss and an effort to keep his dignity neat even when his shoes were not. Chief Whitaker said little. He asked what Malik thought about supply chains and about inflation. Malik answered without big words but with clear thinking. How prices move like weather, how people at the bottom feel storms first, how leadership means building roofs that don't leak when the market rains. The chief nodded once. Just once. Naomi realized she was breathing easier when Malik entered a room. She told herself it was because he made the plan simpler. She told herself a lot of things. Then came Lagos. The family flew for the foundation gala at the Ikoyi estate, a house that looked like a museum married a palace and had children who went to private school. The guest list was full of people who liked to be first in line and last to leave. For the first time since they started the plan, Naomi felt a small panic rise in her chest. Lagos was home turf for her parents. The rules were tighter here. The whispers traveled faster. Malik wore the tuxedo and a calm that didn't look borrowed. He walked beside Naomi through the halls lined with black and white photos of the family's rise. A small grocery in Surulere, a first office by the marina, a first big contract, a handshake with a governor, another with a senator, then with a president. Malik moved like a man who understood that every wall here could talk. They reached the top of the marble stairs. Naomi looked down at the sea of faces, some loving, some curious, some hungry. She felt the plan press against her ribs. She lifted the microphone. The room turned to her as if pulled by one string. "Everyone," she said, "meet my fiancé." And the moment opened like a door, and on the other side waited everything they had rehearsed, and everything they had not. The security guard reached her father. The torn photograph changed his face. The doors locked with that heavy click that told everyone the party had become a trial. Chief Whitaker lifted the bag where everyone could see the ruined picture. "Malik Adeyemi," he said, voice steady. "Under the North Avenue Bridge, this is you, yes? You met my daughter there. Why?" Malik didn't look at the photo. He looked at Naomi not as a man for hire, but as someone who understood that the line between a job and a life can vanish without asking permission. "Because," he said, "truth and hunger meet under bridges." The room stirred. Someone whispered, "He admits it." Another whispered, "He sounds like a preacher." A third, "He sounds like a problem." Chief Whitaker opened the weather-stained note from the bag and held it up. "And this," he said, "was found in your old backpack this afternoon. It is a list. Names. Times. A plan." He paused, let the silence stretch, then added, "A plan that ends tonight." Naomi's heart slammed once, hard. She had written their schedule. She had locked it in her desk. How did a note end up in Malik's old bag? Who was setting a trap and for whom? Chief Whitaker looked at his daughter. "Naomi," he said, "I need you to tell everyone here, right now, whether this engagement is real." Naomi's throat went dry. She opened her mouth to speak. And the lights went out. Darkness fell on the ballroom like a curtain, swallowing the gasps and the flashes and the whispers. For 2 long seconds the only light came from phones raised like fireflies. Then the backup generators coughed awake, the chandeliers blinked back to life, and the orchestra strings quivered with the shock they could not play away. Naomi's hand was still in Malik's. She hadn't realized she had tightened her grip until he squeezed back, a small, steady answer in a room full of questions. Chief Whitaker lifted his palm to quiet everyone, but he didn't need to. Power in Lagos did what it often did, cut out and return, and the guests accepted it the way people accept heat in August. Irritated but unsurprised. Still, the timing was too sharp to be a coincidence. Heads turned toward the doors. Staff stood frozen. Photographers waited, hungry. "Please," Dr. Ngozi said, stepping between her husband and the couple, her voice calm enough to land on every table, "let's give the young man a chance to speak." It sounded like fairness. It was a command. Chief Whitaker's jaw shifted once, then stilled. He nodded, but the nod was a wall, not a welcome. He handed the bag with the photo and the note to the head of security, a barrel-chested man with a calm face and eyes that missed nothing. "Tund," the chief said softly, "verify." "Yes, sir." A woman in a galley the size of a small sail whispered to her table, "This is better than Nollywood," and then immediately pretended she hadn't said it. Naomi's pulse slowed just enough for the room to find its shape again. She looked at Malik. "We stick to the truth we can carry," she breathed. He dipped his chin, a quick promise. He turned to the crowd. "My name is Malik Adeyemi," he said. No microphone. He didn't need it. "Naomi met me under the North Avenue Bridge in Atlanta. She told me the truth about her life, and asked me to help her avoid a marriage she did not want. I said yes. That's all the truth I own in public." Soft, uneasy laughter skated across the room like a stone on water and then sank. Owning a small truth in a rich room sounded both brave and dangerous. "Mr. Adeyemi," Chief Whitaker said, "you left out your past." "I left out what belongs to me," Malik answered, still calm. "Not because I'm ashamed. Because I know the difference between curiosity and a right." It was a careful sentence. It landed like a hand on hot iron. "Enough," Naomi said, surprising herself. "This is my engagement. Ask me your questions." The chief turned his gaze on his daughter. He had the posture of a man who had learned to bend metal with orders and money, who had forgotten what it meant to ask. "Is this engagement real?" Naomi felt every eye press against her skin. She remembered the quiet mornings in the small hotel across from Piedmont Park, when Malik had learned the difference between media smiles and family smiles. She remembered how he carried his coffee like a man who had rationed warmth for a long time. She remembered the way he looked at her when she laughed by accident, like he had been waiting to be allowed to hear that sound. "It began as a plan," she said. "And then life walked in." She didn't say the word love. The room would tear it into pieces. She said the only thing she would not take back. "Yes. It is real to me." Her mother's eyes softened. The chief's hardened. Across the room, a slim man in a navy suit, Julian Pierce, the banker the board liked, with neat hair and a watch worth more than some cars, tilted his head and exchanged a look with a councilman. If a smile had weight, his would have cracked glass. Tund returned, efficient as a clock. He handed the chief a tablet. Power cut was at the street, sir, not ours. Came back on automatically. As for the note, he held up the weathered paper in a plastic sleeve. It's a list of dates and times. Meetings. Phone calls. Some match Ms. Whitaker's calendar. Some don't. Found in the man's old bag as reported. And the photograph? The chief asked. Authentic, Tund said. No obvious editing. Taken weeks ago, likely by a passing driver. The chief addressed the room. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the dessert course. We will continue this family discussion in the East Salon. It wasn't a request. He turned and the inner circle moved. Siblings, cousins, board allies, the family's legal counsel, and uninvited but drifting like smoke, Julian Pierce. They crossed to a quieter room with long windows opening onto the garden where frangipani sweetened the night. A cooling unit hummed. The walls held paintings of markets and ships and a portrait of the chief's father, the man who had started the first grocery with a logbook and a stubborn smile. The salon door closed. Noise from the ballroom dulled to a distant sea. Sit, the chief said. He did not sit himself. Naomi and Malik took the long couch. Dr. Ngozi stood by the window, hands folded as if she were measuring her words before she spent them. We can end this tonight with grace, the chief said. We will announce a mutual decision to wait. Malik will be given a gift for his discretion. Naomi, you will take the board's advice. Julian cleared his throat. Chief, with respect, the market hates uncertainty. A clean message now protects the merger. My team has already drafted. Julian, hush, Dr. Ngozi said without looking at him. Silence sliced the room. Naomi met her father's eyes. You taught me not to be afraid of storms, she said. You told me a leader stands where the wind hits first. I taught you to build roofs before you preach about storms, he snapped. Then softer, daughter, there is more at stake than your heart. I know, she said. And my heart is not a small stake. He rubbed his brow, a man caught between the math of business and the math of parenthood. I'm not protecting the board from you, he said quietly. I'm protecting you from the board. It should have softened her. It didn't. Protect me by believing me, she said. Ask me the hard questions. Ask him the hard questions. But don't end us for your comfort. The chief faced Malik. Who were you before the bridge? A son, Malik said. A worker. A man who made mistakes and repairs. What mistakes? Ones that cost me a job and a place to sleep. What repairs? Staying alive without growing smaller. The chief almost smiled because the sentence was both humble and proud. Have you been arrested? No. Addicted? No. Married? No. Do you love my daughter? The room held its breath again. It was the question Naomi hadn't wanted asked this early, not here, not like a trap. Malik looked at her. Then he answered the only way he knew how. I respect her. I am drawn to her. I want good things for her even when I am not in the picture. If that is not love yet, it is the road toward it. It was so honest that it sounded like it might be true. Julian laughed once, softly. Poetry, he said. But the street is not a resume. Tund's tablet buzzed. He glanced down, then moved quickly to the chief and showed him the screen. The chief's mouth thinned. What is it? Naomi asked. An email, the chief said. To several media outlets. Anonymous. With a link to a cloud drive. It contains videos, timestamps, and a claim. What claim? Malik asked. That you, the chief said, eyes on Malik, are not a random man Naomi hired. That you targeted her. Malik's face didn't change. That's a lie. Is it? Julian asked, too smooth. Because it also contains footage of you outside the Whitaker Foundation office 2 months before you met under the bridge. Naomi turned to Malik. Were you there? Yes, he said simply. To apply for a day job moving boxes. I didn't get it. And the footage? The chief pressed. Show me, Malik said. They watched on the tablet. A quiet clip from a street camera. A man in a frayed hoodie, Malik, standing across from the foundation building, hands in pockets, watching people flow in and out as if guessing their stories. Time stamp, 2 months before North Avenue. Another clip, Malik at a soup kitchen near the office. Another, talking with a guard outside a loading dock. Alone, each clip meant nothing. Together they were a picture someone wanted to paint. A man circling a building until a plan fell into his hands. Who sent this? Dr. Ngozi asked. Tund shook his head. Anonymous. Routed through 3 services. But the drive is sourced from an account created in Houston this afternoon. Julian checked his watch. Chief, the press will call in minutes. We should control the narrative. Distance Naomi. Emphasize that she was misled. Clean break, no guilt. We can still save the vote. Naomi's mouth went dry. No. The chief's phone buzzed. He ignored it. Mr. Adeyemi? He said, do you have an explanation? Yes, Malik replied. But I need 5 minutes and a phone call to get proof. Julian smiled without warmth. To whom? Your team under the bridge. Malik looked past him to the portrait of the chief's father. To someone you forgot. The chief tilted his head. Who? The woman who runs the soup kitchen in that video, Malik said. Her name is Sister Alma. She keeps a paper sign-in sheet for volunteers and job seekers. 2 months before I met Naomi, I volunteered there because the line for food moved faster if you worked. That day the foundation sent excess boxed meals and I unloaded them. Ask her who told me to come by the foundation the next week and look for day work. It wasn't Naomi. It was your executive assistant. The room shifted as if the furniture had leaned forward to listen. Which assistant? The chief asked. Ms. Yinka, Malik said. Short hair. Red glasses. Lagos accent even in Atlanta. She told me the delivery schedules. She said the loading team sometimes needed hands. Tun was already typing. I can call her. The chief nodded. Do it. While Tun stepped into the hall, Naomi stared at Malik. Why didn't you tell me this? Because it didn't matter to the plan, he said. It matters now. Julian's calm began to crack. Even if this sister confirms your story, the optics are a disaster. The market will still see a man who doesn't belong. Dr. Ngozi finally turned from the window. The market can learn new eyes, she said. The door opened. Tun returned, phone in hand. He didn't look at the chief. He looked at Naomi first, and in that look was an apology that made her stomach drop. Ms. Yinka says she never spoke to Mr. Adeyemi, he said. She says she has never seen him in her life. Naomi stood too fast. The room tilted. Malik's jaw clenched once, hard. She's lying, he said quietly. Why would she lie? Julian asked, easing toward the center of the room like a man smelling victory. Malik didn't answer right away. He was staring at the tablet paused on the soup kitchen door, as if the pixels might turn and speak. He frowned. Can you zoom that? He asked Tun. Tun pinched the screen. The frame tightened. In the left corner, a reflection in the door's glass caught a sliver of a face, someone holding a phone up and filming Malik from across the street. Who is that? Naomi whispered. No one knew. But the face was familiar to someone. Because in that reflection at the edge of the shot, you could just make out a navy sleeve and the corner shine of a very expensive watch. The exact model that Julian Pierce wore tonight. The room went still enough to hear the soft whir of the cooling unit. Julian's smile thinned. He slid one wrist behind his back. Naomi's father looked at the screen, then at Julian, then at Malik, as if a chessboard had suddenly flipped over and all the pieces were rolling. Explain, the chief said. Julian opened his mouth. Before he could speak, the salon door burst open. A young staffer, breathless and pale, held up her phone. Sir, Chief, there's more, she said. A live stream. It says Naomi hired an actor and they're about to release a voice recording. What recording? Naomi asked, cold rushing into her arms and legs. The staffer swallowed. Your first meeting under the bridge, she said. Every word. Naomi's body went cold. Every word? It felt like someone had reached into her chest and twisted something fragile. The room blurred for a moment as everyone turned toward the staffer holding up her phone. Put it on the screen, Chief Whitaker ordered, his voice tight, commanding the space like he always did. Tund connected the feed to the tablet and mirrored it on the wall display. The live stream buffered for a heartbeat, then started playing. There she was, Naomi Whitaker, standing under the North Avenue Bridge, dressed in jeans, sneakers, and a baseball cap. The same moment that began everything. The camera angle was shaky but clear enough. It wasn't a foundation camera. It wasn't security. It was hidden. The video captured her first words, hi. Then Malik's cautious response, hello. And then, the unthinkable. Her own voice saying, I'd like to hire you. The room erupted in whispers. Laughter. Shocked gasps. Someone murmured, she really said it. Another, this is worse than I thought. Naomi's mother pressed a hand to her mouth. Her father's shoulders stiffened like granite. Julian Pierce stood quietly, head bowed, almost smiling. The recording continued. Naomi, to be my fiancé. Malik, That's new. Naomi, I'm being serious. Then it cut abruptly. The live stream switched to a commentator's voice, smooth, mocking, dripping with smug certainty. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard is the confession of Naomi Whitaker, the billionaire heiress who hired a homeless man to pose as her lover to fool her powerful family. Sources say the man, identified as Malik Adeyemi, is part of a plan to scam the Whitaker empire. Stay tuned as we release more shocking details. The video froze on Naomi's face mid-sentence, her eyes wide in the exact moment she said the word fiancé. The room was silent. Not even the air dared move. Then the chief's voice broke through the silence. Turn it off. Tund ended the stream. Whoever released that, Naomi said, her voice trembling but steadying as she spoke, edited it. They cut out everything that came after. The part where I told him it was only for a short-term deal to help me avoid the board's arranged engagement. Julian chuckled, low and disbelieving. That's a convenient defense, Naomi? She turned to him sharply. You knew, didn't you? His lips curved slightly. Knew what? That someone was recording. That this setup wasn't random. Malik stepped closer to her, his presence calm but fierce. She's right. You were there, Julian. That reflection in the video proved it. Julian's eyes hardened. Careful, Beggar. The last man who accused me of something he couldn't prove ended up losing everything. The chief raised a hand. Enough. Both of you. He turned to Tund. Trace that live stream. Find its origin. Tund was already tapping on his tablet. It's coming through multiple proxy layers, sir. Nigeria, London, then routed to a private network in Houston. Houston again, Naomi whispered. Just like the last leak. Her mother turned slowly toward Julian. Julian, don't you have offices in Houston? Julian smiled politely. Several. So does half of corporate America. But the smile was too polished. Too deliberate. Naomi could see it now. The trap had been built carefully long before that night. Someone had recorded their meeting, leaked the photo, planted the note, edited the clip, and timed it all to explode when the Whitakers were surrounded by the richest, most influential people in Lagos. Her father finally sat, elbows on his knees, head lowered. This scandal will destroy us, he said quietly. The merger, the reputation, everything. Naomi's voice cracked as she said, Daddy, I didn't mean for any of this. I know you didn't mean it, he interrupted, but you did it. The words hit harder than a slap. Malik stepped forward. Sir, if you let me, I can fix this. The chief looked up sharply. How? By finding who's behind it, Malik said. They're using us both. I know the kind of people who plant traps like this. They plan long before they strike. Someone in your circle has been leaking, following, recording, waiting for the right moment to destroy both Naomi's name and your company. The chief studied him. And why should I believe a man who once slept under a bridge? Because, sir, Malik said, locking eyes with him, I've lived long enough to know that people with nothing left to lose are often the ones who tell the truth. That landed. The chief's silence wasn't agreement, but it wasn't rejection either. Naomi touched Malik's arm. We can prove it. But we'll need access to your father's security files, the guest logs, and the internal communication lines. Someone close leaked the timing of our engagement and the gala itself. Julian interjected smoothly, You're accusing the board now? Bull. Maybe you should accuse the cooks while you're at it. Malik ignored him. Who handles your media relations, Chief? Clarissa, Dr. Ngozi answered. She's been with us 10 years. Malik nodded. Then we start there. She's clean, we move up. Whoever leaked that footage had access to both your family's private calendar and Naomi's travel schedule. That narrows it down to 5 people. Maximum. Tund looked impressed despite himself. He's not wrong, sir. The chief rubbed his temples. Do whatever you must. Quietly. If this gets worse, we'll be feeding our empire to the wolves. As they spoke, Julian glanced at his phone under the table, quickly typing something. Malik caught the motion but said nothing. When the meeting broke, Naomi and Malik walked down the marble hall toward the back terrace. Lagos night hummed outside, distant cars, the sound of waves against the rocks beyond the fence, and the faint beat of music from the still unaware ballroom. Naomi leaned against the railing. My father's furious. My mother's scared. The media thinks I'm a joke. What now? Malik stood beside her. The moonlight brushed his face, revealing a quiet strength beneath the exhaustion. Now we do what rich people rarely do, he said. We listen. Listen to what? The lies, he said softly. They always tell you where they started. Naomi looked up at him, her eyes tired but burning with determination. "You don't deserve this mess." "I walked into it willingly," he said. "I knew it wasn't going to be simple." She turned to face him fully. "Why did you agree that day? You didn't even know me." Malik hesitated. "Because you looked like someone trapped by gold chains. And I knew how that felt." The silence that followed was heavy and alive. Naomi's throat tightened. Something about his words pulled at the parts of her she had built walls around. Before she could speak, Tun's voice echoed from inside. "Sir." "Chief." They both turned. Tund hurried down the corridor holding his tablet, breathing hard. "We traced the leak's secondary source. The Houston account is linked to a company called Pierce Media Holdings." Julian's name. The chief stood slowly, fury hardening in his eyes. "Julian Pierce?" Tund nodded. "Yes, sir. It's his corporate signature." And the same device that uploaded the video also sent an email to several reporters. Naomi's breath caught. So it was him. Malik clenched his fists. "He's been behind this from the start." Julian appeared at the doorway to the terrace as if summoned by their words. "Before you all start hanging me, maybe someone should check the facts." The chief's voice was cold. "We did." Julian smiled faintly. "Then check one more, because the next video is already scheduled to go live in 10 minutes. And when it does, you'll all wish you'd listened to me earlier." "What video?" Naomi demanded. Julian stepped closer, his confidence returning. "The one that proves your charming beggar isn't what he says he is." Malik's jaw tightened. "You're bluffing." Julian's smirk widened. "Am I?" "Because this one isn't edited. It's raw. And it shows exactly what you were doing the night before Naomi found you under that bridge." Naomi turned slowly to Malik. "What is he talking about?" Malik didn't answer immediately. His silence stretched too long. "Malik?" she whispered. He looked away, eyes dark with something heavier than fear. "Naomi, there's something I never told you." The chief's voice boomed through the silence. "What is it, Malik?" Malik turned back toward them. "The night before I met Naomi, I wasn't just sleeping under that bridge." He took a deep breath. "I was running from someone." Naomi's heart thudded. "Who?" Julian's grin was sharp. "Tell her, Malik. Tell her who was chasing you, and why there's a bounty on your name." The terrace filled with stunned silence as Malik stared at Julian, and for the first time since the plan began, Naomi saw real fear flicker behind his calm eyes. For the first time since the gala began, Naomi couldn't find her voice. The night air was thick, heavy, and cruelly quiet. Malik's words hung between them like smoke. "I was running from someone." Her father's face turned storm dark. "Running from who, exactly?" Malik's eyes lowered, then lifted again, steady but guarded. "A man I used to work for." Julian took a step forward, relishing the moment. "Oh, come on, Malik. Let's not play the saint now. Tell them how you stole from him." "That's a lie," Malik said sharply. "Is it?" Julian smirked. "Because this next video, set to go public in," he checked his watch, 7 minutes, "shows exactly that. You and a crew unloading a truck that doesn't belong to you. Security footage. Very clear." Naomi's mother spoke up, her voice trembling but firm. "Julian, you will not speak another word until we confirm that." Julian tilted his head. "Of course, doctor. But when you see it, don't say I didn't warn you." Tund was already scrolling on his tablet, running quick searches through dark web mirrors, encrypted links, media cues. Within seconds he found it, an unlisted upload with tens of thousands of queued views waiting for the scheduled release. He tapped play. The footage was grainy, security-style, night vision green. A small warehouse lot. 3 men unloading boxes from a delivery truck. One of them was unmistakably Malik, lean, determined, wearing a torn jacket. He was shouting something to another man off-screen. Then police sirens flashed in the distance. The men scattered. Naomi's breath caught. Her heart started pounding so loudly she could barely hear the wind. Julian folded his arms. "There's your hero." But then Tund frowned. "Wait." He zoomed in. "Look at the timestamp." The chief leaned closer. "What about it?" "The footage is edited," Tund said. "It says this was from 2 months ago, but the date format is off. It's European. Whoever uploaded this copied older footage and changed the metadata. See that? The truck logo? It's an old company name. That branch shut down last year." Naomi's eyes snapped to Malik. "So, is it true or not?" Malik exhaled, his expression raw. "It's partly true." Julian laughed once. Listen to him twist his words. Malik ignored him and faced Naomi. I used to work for a small distribution company in Atlanta. One night, the supervisor asked us to move stock after hours. Said it was an emergency job, extra pay. I didn't know until the police came that he'd used the job to cover stolen medical supplies. I didn't steal anything. But when they arrested everyone, he disappeared and left me behind. Were you charged? The chief asked. No. They couldn't prove anything. But my name was blacklisted. No one would hire me. That's how I ended up under the bridge. Dr. Ngozi stepped closer. And this Julian knew that, didn't he? Julian raised both hands innocently. I did my research. Background checks are normal when billions are on the line. Naomi's father glared. You weren't protecting my company, you were building ammunition. Julian's smile faded slightly. I was protecting your reputation from a scandal that would have crushed the board's confidence. The heiress marrying an ex-suspect? Come on, Chief. Be honest. How long before the headlines write themselves? Naomi's jaw tightened. You leaked everything to make my father desperate enough to end our engagement and make you the board's perfect alternative. Julian shrugged, but his silence was confession enough. The chief rose slowly. His voice came low and cold. Tund. Cancel the next press conference. Shut down all public channels. If that video releases, every share, every copy, wipe it before it trends. Yes, sir. Malik looked down, guilt weighing on his chest. Chief, this is my fault. I shouldn't have agreed to the plan. I thought I could play a part and walk away clean. But the world doesn't let people like me stay invisible. Naomi turned to him, her voice cracking. No, Malik. It's not your fault. You didn't bring this evil. It followed you here. Julian's tone turned venomous. You don't understand, Naomi. He's not just bad luck. He's dangerous. That warehouse case wasn't random. The man he worked for, his boss, was one of my company's former clients. Malik's crew cost us over $2 million. You think that's coincidence? The chief frowned. You had ties to that case? Julian blinked. Realizing his slip, he stammered, only professionally. Through reports. I just remember the name. Tund stepped between them. Sir, I checked the origin of that footage upload. Guess who owns the IP it came from? Everyone turned to him. Pierce Media Holdings. Julian's mask dropped. That's ridiculous. The chief cut him off. Don't insult my intelligence, Julian. You planted this entire scandal, staged the leak, doctored the footage, and then pretended to protect my family. Why? Julian straightened his tie, trying to salvage his composure. Because you wouldn't listen. I've spent years helping your empire grow, building your mergers, handling your publicity, and yet when the time came to expand, you gave your daughter power instead of me. I earned this legacy. She didn't. Naomi's voice sliced through the air. So you decided to destroy mine. He smiled, brittle and bitter. It's business, Naomi. You'll learn that love and loyalty don't pay dividends. Malik took a step forward, fury burning in his eyes. And yet, you call me the liar. Julian's tone darkened. You're just the weapon I sharpened. The chief's hand shot up. Tund, escort him out, now. Tund moved quickly, but Julian wasn't done. As security approached, he turned toward Naomi one last time. You think this ends with me? The board has already seen everything. They've started voting to remove your father as chairman. By sunrise, you'll be nothing but a headline, and your homeless fiancé will be yesterday's scandal. He laughed once, short, cruel, and let himself be dragged out. The door slammed. Silence returned. Naomi sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. What have I done? Malik knelt in front of her. You trusted. That's not a crime. Her voice was a whisper. I made you part of my lie, and now it's become the truth neither of us wanted. He reached for her hand. Naomi, look at me. We can still turn this around. I don't care about your father's empire. I care about proving that the person who hired a stranger under a bridge did it because she had heart, not arrogance. For the first time that night, she met his gaze fully. You don't owe me anything. He smiled faintly. You're wrong. I owe you everything. At that exact moment, Tund's phone buzzed again. He checked the alert, and his eyes went wide. Sir, he said quickly to Chief Whitaker. The leaked videos, they've stopped spreading. The chief blinked. What? Yes, sir. Every upload, every mirror, every repost, deleted simultaneously. Someone's wiping the entire trail. Naomi looked up sharply. Who could do that? Tund turned the screen toward them. Whoever it is, they're using your foundation's main server, Naomi. What? Yes, ma'am. The deletion orders came directly from your organization's internal system. But that means someone inside is helping you, or framing you. The chief's face hardened. Find out which. Naomi stood slowly, realizing something that chilled her to the core. Her foundation password had been changed a week ago. She'd thought it was a technical glitch. Now she understood. Someone had been inside her world long before this scandal began. And if they could erase the leaks this fast, they could also rewrite them. Naomi turned toward Malik. This isn't over, she said. Someone bigger than Julian is behind this. Malik nodded grimly. Then let's find them before they find us. Behind them, lightning flashed beyond the glass walls, throwing their shadows long and sharp against the marble. The storm had only just begun. Rain began to fall outside the Whitaker estate, soft at first, then heavy as if the sky itself had decided to mourn. The thunder rolled across Lagos Island like a warning, shaking the glass panes of the East Salon. Inside, Naomi stood at the long window watching the garden lights blur in the storm. Malik stood behind her, silent, his reflection hovering beside hers in the glass, two broken silhouettes trying to hold the same truth. Chief Whitaker paced the room, phone pressed to his ear, issuing orders to the board and security teams. His voice was sharp, composed, but beneath it, a weariness crept in. Years of building his empire, now hanging on the edge of public disgrace. Dr. Ngozi sat on the sofa, eyes distant, clutching a rosary that glinted between her fingers. She whispered prayers under her breath. Tun stood near the console, fingers flying across the tablet. Sir, we have a situation, he said. The Foundation's firewall just triggered another alert. Someone's trying to restore the deleted footage. Naomi turned. From inside. Yes, ma'am, Tun said. Same IP route. The deletion wasn't an accident, it was a delay. They erased it just long enough to create panic. Now they're re-uploading everything with new edits. Malik stepped closer. So we're not fighting leaks, we're fighting someone controlling the entire narrative. Chief Whitaker slammed his palm on the table. Who's behind it, Tund? I need a name. I'm tracing it, sir. He paused. But the upload is masked through your Foundation's headquarters in Atlanta. Naomi's eyes widened. Atlanta? Yes, ma'am. The same office where you first met Malik. Everyone froze. The chief turned slowly to Malik. Why does this circle back to you? Malik clenched his fists. Because that's where I worked nights unloading trucks. That's where I met Yinka, the assistant who now claims she's never seen me. Whoever is running this knows every detail of that building. Tun's device beeped. Sir, I've got something. The active user logged into the Foundation server right now is using credentials that belong to, he stopped. To who? Naomi demanded. Tund hesitated. Ms. Yinka. Naomi gasped. She's in Atlanta right now. She's the one who told me about the charity drive months ago. Dr. Ngozi looked up sharply. And she's the same one who denied knowing Malik. The chief's face hardened. Put her on a call. Now. Tund connected the video link. After a moment, Yinka's face appeared, dimly lit, framed by an office's fluorescent glow. Her expression was calm, too calm. Chief Whitaker, she greeted smoothly. I was expecting your call. Expecting? The chief repeated. Explain yourself, Yinka. Why are you accessing my daughter's Foundation files? Why did you lie about knowing Malik Adeyemi? Yinka smiled faintly. Because you wouldn't have listened if I told you the truth. Naomi stepped forward. What truth? That Malik wasn't just a random man under a bridge, Yinka said. He was part of something bigger, something you were never supposed to find. Malik's jaw tightened. What are you talking about? Yinka leaned closer to the screen. Her voice dropped, steady, deliberate. 3 years ago, your father's company, Whitaker Holdings, made a deal with a logistics firm to distribute medical equipment across West Africa. That same firm, Global Pathway Logistics, was the one you worked for, Malik. The one that framed you when their shipment went missing. The chief's eyes narrowed. That's ancient business. What does it have to do with this? Everything, Yinka said. Because those missing supplies were never stolen. They were rebranded and resold, by your own partners. Someone in this family knew and covered it up. Naomi's voice shook. Are you saying my father? No, Yinka interrupted. Not your father. But someone close to him. Dr. Ngozi rose slowly. Who? Yinka hesitated. Chief Whitaker's right-hand man on the merger team, Mr. Julian Pierce. He handled the logistics side. He was the one who falsified the records and blamed it on low-level workers. Malik was his scapegoat. The room froze. Naomi's mother whispered, "Dear God." Malik stared at the screen. "So that's why Julian was so obsessed with discrediting me. He needed me gone before I remembered." Yinka nodded. "Exactly. He underestimated you. He thought you'd disappear forever. But when Naomi brought you back into the spotlight, he panicked. That's when the leak started." The chief's face darkened with fury. "And you, Yinka, you helped him. You lied to me." "I had to," she said quickly. "He threatened my family. My brother works in one of his firms. If I didn't cooperate, they'd destroy him." Naomi stepped closer to the screen. "Why help us now?" Yinka's calm cracked. "Because Julian's lost control. He's working with an even bigger player now, someone who wants to buy out Whitaker Holdings once your reputation collapses." The chief frowned. "Who?" "Someone named Mr. De Silva," she said quietly. "A foreign investor from Dubai. He's the one financing the smear campaign. And the deadline for the board's vote is tomorrow morning." Naomi's pulse quickened. "If the board votes while the videos are still circulating, they'll remove your father," Yinka finished. The connection began to flicker. Static filled the screen. Yinka's face blurred. "Yinka!" Naomi shouted. "Stay with us." Yinka's voice came through, faint but urgent. "Naomi, listen, Julian has a hard drive with the unedited videos. Everything. Find it before sunrise, before he sells them to De Silva. He keeps it." The screen went black. Tund cursed under his breath. Connection lost. The chief turned to his daughter and Malik. "We find that drive before he does." Malik nodded. "Where would he hide it?" Tund thought quickly. "Julian keeps an office at the Marina Towers, 3rd floor, overlooking the lagoon. If he's meeting this De Silva tonight, that's where it'll be." Naomi's heart pounded. "Then we're going there." The chief looked at her. "Absolutely not. It's too dangerous." She stepped closer, eyes fierce. "This is my name, my future, and your company on the line. You taught me to face storms, remember?" He hesitated, then sighed. "You'll go with Tund and Malik. I'll keep the board busy until morning." Naomi grabbed her jacket. Malik moved beside her. "You ready for this?" he asked. She nodded. "I don't know if I'm ready, but I don't have a choice." As they headed toward the exit, thunder cracked again, louder this time. Naomi turned back briefly and saw her parents watching from the doorway, her mother praying silently, her father gripping the chair's arm until his knuckles turned white. Then she stepped into the rain. Malik opened the car door, water dripping down his face. The lightning illuminated his features, strong, steady, and determined. "Naomi," he said quietly as she climbed in, "if we find that drive, this ends tonight." She met his eyes through the storm. "And if we don't?" He started the engine. "Then everything we've built, fake or real, dies before morning." The car sped into the dark Lagos streets, tires splashing through puddles, city lights smearing across the windshield like falling stars. Neither of them spoke again. Both knew the truth. They weren't just trying to save a company anymore. They were trying to save each other. The Lagos night was alive with the hum of rain and neon reflections. The city, usually chaotic and loud, seemed quieter under the storm, but danger often moved best in silence. Naomi sat in the back seat of the black SUV, her heart pounding hard enough to make her chest ache. Malik was in the passenger seat beside Tund, who gripped the steering wheel like a soldier ready for war. The rhythmic wipe of the windshield wipers felt like a countdown. "Marina Towers, 3rd floor," Tund said, eyes fixed on the road. "That's Julian's office. Security there is tight. We'll have 5 minutes at most before someone alerts him." "5 minutes?" Naomi asked. "We might need more time." Malik turned, his dark eyes calm but focused. "We won't. We go in quiet, grab the drive, and leave before anyone knows we were there." Tund nodded grimly. "If we're lucky, he hasn't left yet. But if he's meeting De Silva tonight, he might not come alone." Naomi's thoughts tangled as the city lights rushed past. The betrayal, the leaks, her father's empire, her own heart's confusion. Everything pointed to this moment. "Malik," she said softly, "if something goes wrong, I need you to promise me you'll walk away. My father can handle this." He gave her a look that was equal parts disbelief and warmth. "Naomi, I don't walk away from storms. I learn to survive them." Tund gave a small smirk. "You two might want to save the romantic speeches until after we find the drive." The SUV rolled to a stop a block from the Marina Towers, a sleek glass building glowing faintly against the dark skyline. Most offices were dark, but one window on the 3rd floor still burned with light. Julian was there. Tund parked under a canopy of palm trees and killed the engine. The three sat in silence for a beat, the sound of the rain filling the car like static. Naomi exhaled shakily. Let's do this. They slipped out into the rain. Tund led the way through the side entrance using a universal access card from his security arsenal. The elevator dinged softly as they reached the third floor, stepping into a long corridor lined with tinted glass doors. At the far end, Julian's nameplate gleamed on a mahogany door. Julian Pierce, Strategic Partnerships. Through the frosted glass they saw movement. Naomi's pulse raced. Tund raised a finger to his lips, motioning for silence. Malik moved beside the door, muscles tense, listening. Voices drifted through the gap, Julian's smooth tone, and another man's deep, accented voice. De Silva, Malik mouthed. They listened. Julian, the girl is finished. The board will vote in 6 hours. You'll own 30% of Whitaker Holdings before sunrise. De Silva, and the rest. Julian, her father will step down. Once the scandal spreads, they'll beg for a bailout. You'll be their savior. De Silva, chuckling, and the homeless man? Julian, collateral. He'll disappear after tonight. Naomi's breath caught. Malik's jaw tightened. Tund whispered, he's got men with him. 3 outside the office. I saw their reflections in the glass. Malik glanced at Naomi. We can't take them all head on. We wait until Julian leaves. Naomi shook her head. He's transferring everything tonight. If he uploads those files to De Silva's network, it's over. Malik looked around, the hallway was empty. He spotted a maintenance room halfway down. Tund will need to cut the power. Just long enough to disorient them. Tund grinned faintly. You read my mind. Within moments he pried open the service panel. A few deft moves with a screwdriver, and the floor plunged into darkness. The lights inside Julian's office flickered out. Shouts echoed behind the door. What's going on? De Silva's voice demanded. Julian hissed, stay here. Malik moved fast. He slammed his shoulder against the office door, bursting it open. Chaos erupted. Julian stumbled backward, his laptop half open on the desk. 2 guards lunged, but Tund tackled one while Malik dodged the other, grabbing a glass award from a shelf and striking hard. The guard dropped with a groan. Naomi darted inside, eyes scanning the room. The hard drive. Find it. Julian recovered quickly, grabbing the laptop and yanking it toward him. You don't know what you're doing, Naomi? She glared at him. You destroyed my life. He sneered. No, I exposed your lie. You're just too spoiled to face the truth. Malik lunged forward, grabbing Julian's arm. They struggled, knocking over the desk lamp. The hard drive slid to the floor, skidding under the cabinet. Naomi dropped to her knees, reaching under, fingers brushing cold metal, just as De Silva pulled a pistol from his jacket. Enough, De Silva barked. His accent was sharp, heavy with menace. Stand. All of you. Tund froze mid-step. Malik stopped moving, eyes on the weapon. Naomi rose slowly, clutching the drive behind her back. Julian wiped blood from his lip, grinning triumphantly. Now you see, Naomi. You were never in control. You were just the final move. Malik's eyes flicked to Naomi's hand, signaling her silently, hide it. She slipped the drive into her pocket. De Silva stepped forward, gun steady. Hand it over, Miss Whitaker. Naomi tried to keep her voice steady. What's on it? Your family's history, De Silva said coldly. And your ruin. Why go this far? She asked. He smiled faintly. Because every empire begins with someone else's ashes. The room held its breath. Malik's mind raced, 3 men down, 1 armed, 1 cornered Naomi. He needed an opening. Then from the hall, came the faint wail of approaching sirens. Police. De Silva cursed under his breath. You called the police? Tund smirked. No, but they track every outage in this district. Someone must have reported the break-in. De Silva backed toward the window, gun still trained. This isn't over. You think you can save your father? The world runs on money, not truth. He turned to Julian. Get rid of them. Or I'll make sure you join them. Julian hesitated, then suddenly shoved Malik toward the desk, lunging for Naomi's pocket. The two struggled, twisting the gun between them. A deafening bang ripped through the office. Julian froze. His eyes widened, he staggered backward, clutching his shoulder. Blood blossomed across his white shirt. Naomi stood trembling, hands still outstretched. The gun dropped to the floor. Malik caught her as she swayed. Naomi breathed. You're okay. You didn't mean to. Tun stepped forward, grabbing the weapon. "He's alive," he said quickly. "Shoulder hit only. But we have to move. Now." Outside, police lights flashed blue and red through the rain-smeared windows. Malik took the hard drive from Naomi's pocket. "We have it. Let's go." Naomi looked at Julian one last time. He was slumped against the wall, groaning, eyes full of hate and regret. "You lost everything for greed," she said quietly. "And I almost lost myself because of you." Tun grabbed Malik's arm. "Let's move." They slipped out through the back stairwell as the first police sirens reached the lobby. By the time the officers stormed the third floor, the Whitaker SUV was already racing through the flooded streets toward the island bridge. Rain hammered the windshield. Naomi sat in stunned silence, watching the city streak by. Malik held the hard drive tightly in his lap. "We did it," he said softly. Naomi looked at him, her face pale and wet from tears and rain. "No," she whispered. "We survived. The fight's just beginning." The night stretched on like a secret that refused to end. The SUV tore through the Lagos streets, splashing through puddles, lightning flashing across the water as the lagoon bridge loomed ahead. Inside the car, tension sat heavier than the rain. Naomi's hands were trembling. She kept them pressed against her lap, staring blankly at the hard drive resting in Malik's grip. Its tiny light blinked every few seconds, a reminder of how much truth it held. "Is it safe?" she asked quietly. Tund nodded without looking away from the road. "Encrypted. But if we plug it in the wrong system, whoever's still working with De Silva could track us." "So where do we take it?" Naomi asked. Malik answered, "Somewhere no one can reach it, your father's private study. His servers are offline and completely secure. It's the only place we can open it without risk." Naomi exhaled slowly, watching city lights blur past. "Then that's where we go." By the time they reached the Whitaker estate, dawn was only a few hours away. The rain had slowed to a drizzle and a thick fog clung to the garden paths. The mansion loomed quiet, too quiet. Tun scanned the grounds with a small flashlight. "Something's off," he murmured. "Gate guards should have been here." Naomi frowned. "Maybe my father sent them to the board meeting early?" "No," Malik said softly. "Chief Whitaker doesn't take risks like that." They stepped into the house. The scent of wet marble and candle wax hung in the air. The main hallway was dim, lined with portraits that seemed to watch them pass. "Stay alert," Malik whispered. They reached the study, an old room lined with leather-bound books and glass cabinets. The large oak desk stood in the center, illuminated by the faint blue glow of the emergency lamp. Naomi took a shaky breath. "Let's find out what's on this drive." Tund connected the hard drive to the chief's offline terminal. The screen flickered, showing a password prompt. Malik typed something quickly, a bypass code he'd memorized during his time at Global Pathway Logistics. The files opened. Rows of folders appeared: shipments, invoices, recordings, personal accounts. Naomi leaned in. "Play the most recent recording." Tun clicked it. Julian's voice filled the room, smooth and cold. "De Silva, the transfers are complete. The falsified documents will make it look like Chief Whitaker approved the illegal trade himself. Once the scandal breaks, you'll have full leverage over him and his daughter. The old man steps down and we get control of Whitaker Holdings. No loose ends." De Silva's voice replied, faint but clear. "And the beggar?" "Handled. He'll never talk. If he does, I'll release the footage tying him to the theft. By the time he proves his innocence, it won't matter." Naomi covered her mouth. "Oh my God." Malik's jaw tightened. "So they planned this from the start." Tund clicked another file, a ledger of offshore accounts. It contained dates, sums, and deposits matching the timeline of the stolen medical supplies. Each entry was under a shell company, Pierce Global Trade Ltd. "That's Julian's firm," Naomi whispered. Tund nodded grimly. "And every payment leads back to him, not your father." Malik stood. "This is the proof we need." Naomi turned to him, tears in her eyes. "You were right. All along. You were innocent and he used you to cover his crime." He gave a small, tired smile. "Now we make it right." Suddenly the lights flickered, once, twice, and went out. The computer screen blinked off. Tund swore under his breath. "Power's been cut from the main grid. Someone knows we're in here." Malik grabbed Naomi's wrist and pulled her toward the corner of the room just as the study door burst open. 3 armed men stormed in, faces hidden behind black scarves. "Get down!" Tund shouted, diving behind the desk. One of the men fired. The bullet shattered a lamp, glass spraying across the floor. Naomi gasped, crouching low. Malik reached for a fire poker from the fireplace. When one attacker stepped too close, Malik swung hard, knocking the gun from his hand. They wrestled. Malik drove his elbow into the man's chest, sending him crashing into the bookcase. Tund disarmed another and kicked his weapon across the floor. But the third grabbed Naomi by the arm, yanking her upright. "Give me the drive," he snarled. Naomi struggled, fear flashing in her eyes. "I don't have it." Malik turned sharply. "Let her go." The man pressed the gun barrel to her temple. "Try me." Malik froze. His hands lifted slowly. The faint light from the storm outside caught the side of his face, highlighting the anger he tried to hold down. "Okay," Malik said quietly. "Just, let's talk." The man smirked. "You talk too much." A faint click came from behind him. "Drop the gun," Chief Whitaker's voice commanded from the doorway. Naomi's father stood tall, revolver steady in his hand, eyes blazing. "You point a weapon at my daughter again and you'll never point anything again." The man hesitated, then slowly dropped the gun. Tund rushed forward, securing the attackers with zip ties. Malik helped Naomi to her feet, brushing dust from her shoulder. The chief walked in, face pale but steady. "I got your message, Tund. I came as soon as I could." Naomi ran into his arms. "Daddy, they tried to kill us." He held her close. "Not anymore." Malik handed him the hard drive. "Sir, this has everything, the deals, the money trails, the recordings. Julian and De Silva framed you." The chief took it, his hands trembling. "You've done more for my family than I ever expected, Malik." Malik shook his head. "No, sir." Naomi did. "I just followed her courage." Dr. Ngozi entered moments later, flanked by uniformed officers. "The police have Julian in custody," she said, relief flooding her tone. "He was found in Marina Towers trying to flee. He confessed when he realized De Silva left him behind." Naomi looked at Malik. "So it's over?" Malik hesitated. "Almost." The chief turned to him. "What do you mean?" Malik's expression darkened. "De Silva isn't the kind of man who lets go easily. He'll come for revenge." The chief nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready. With this evidence, I can clear my name and protect my company. The board will have no choice but to side with the truth." Naomi smiled faintly, the weight finally easing from her chest. "Then maybe we can finally breathe." Malik met her gaze, and for a moment the room faded around them. They stood there, eyes locked, understanding something words couldn't reach. Tund broke the silence. "Chief, I'll take the attackers to the police." The chief nodded. "Good. I'll join you once I secure this drive." Naomi turned to Malik as the others began to leave. "You saved me again." He smiled. "You'd have done the same." She stepped closer, her voice soft. "When this started, I hired you to play a role. But somewhere along the line, it stopped being pretend." Malik's breath caught. "Naomi." She placed her hand gently on his chest. "You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." He took her hand, holding it tightly. "I feel the same." Outside, the first light of dawn began to break through the clouds, casting a soft glow over the shattered study. Naomi leaned against Malik, resting her head on his shoulder. "After everything that's happened, what do we do now?" He smiled faintly. "We start over. This time for real." And for the first time in weeks, Naomi felt something she hadn't felt since that night under the bridge: peace. The following morning, sunlight spilled across the Whitaker estate like a quiet apology after a long night of chaos. For the first time in weeks, the air felt still. No whispers, no gunfire, no secrets scratching under the surface. Just calm. Naomi stood on the balcony outside her room, watching the city wake beneath a golden sky. Her eyes were tired, but her spirit felt lighter. Below her, the garden glistened with dew. The flowers, beaten by the storm, were lifting themselves toward the sun again, just like she hoped to. Behind her, Malik approached quietly, wearing a crisp white shirt the chief had given him. His beard was neatly trimmed now, his eyes softer, though still carrying the weight of everything that had happened. "Morning," he said. Naomi turned, a small smile playing at her lips. "Morning." For a while neither spoke. The sound of birds and distant Lagos traffic filled the silence. Finally she said, "The board meeting starts in an hour. My father's already gone with the evidence. If all goes well, Julian will be facing trial by the end of the day." Malik nodded. "And De Silva?" "Interpol's involved," she said. "They've frozen his accounts. He won't touch another company in this country again." Malik exhaled slowly. "Then it's over." Naomi looked at him carefully. For you too. He hesitated, his eyes drifting toward the horizon. I don't know. I've spent so long running from my past, it feels strange to stop. You don't have to run anymore, she said softly. You proved yourself. You cleared your name. You saved my family. Malik chuckled under his breath. Maybe. But your world is still marble floors and boardrooms. Mine isn't. She stepped closer. It could be. He looked at her, surprised. Naomi's voice dropped, sincere and trembling. When I hired you, I thought I was being clever, rebelling against my father, controlling my life for once. But you showed me something I'd never seen before. That honesty, even from someone who's lost everything, is more powerful than all the lies money can buy. Malik swallowed hard. Naomi. She shook her head gently. Let me finish. She smiled faintly. You were supposed to play my fiancé. Pretend to love me. Pretend to care. But in the end, you became the only real thing in all of this. Malik's voice softened. I didn't mean for that to happen. But somewhere between the pretending and the protecting, I stopped acting. Naomi's heart stuttered. So it's real then? He took her hand. It's real. Every bit of it. The moment stretched, quiet, fragile, full. Then suddenly the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. Chief Whitaker stepped onto the balcony, his phone in one hand, a rare smile on his face. Good news travels fast, he said. The board voted unanimously to reinstate me as chairman. Julian confessed everything. The company's safe. Naomi's eyes brightened. Daddy, that's amazing. He nodded, then turned to Malik. And as for you, young man, I owe you more than thanks. Malik straightened instinctively, unsure how to respond. Sir, you don't owe me anything. Oh, I do, the chief said firmly. You risked your life for my daughter and my family. You gave us truth when all we had were lies. That's worth more than any deal I've ever signed. Dr. Ngozi appeared beside him, her calm smile grounding the moment. And you gave my daughter something even we couldn't give her, courage. Naomi blushed slightly. Mom? Her mother smiled knowingly. You think we don't see it? The way you look at each other? The chief chuckled. I was going to pretend not to notice. But since we're all being honest now, he extended his hand to Malik. Whatever your past, I can see the man you've become. You have my respect. Malik shook his hand firmly. That means more than you know, sir. Dr. Ngozi stepped forward. What will you do now, Malik? He glanced at Naomi, then back at her parents. I think it's time to build something new, something that's mine. Maybe start a logistics firm of my own, but this time the right way. Honest work. Clean hands. Naomi smiled. I'd invest in that. Her father raised an eyebrow. You would? She nodded. Absolutely. Every empire starts somewhere. Why not with us rebuilding from truth? The chief chuckled. You sound more like me every day. Naomi laughed. Except I learned from your mistakes. Her father grinned, then turned serious. Whatever the two of you decide, just make sure it's built on trust. Money can buy comfort, but only trust buys peace. Naomi squeezed Malik's hand gently. We'll remember that. The chief nodded, placing a hand on Malik's shoulder before leaving with Dr. Ngozi. As they disappeared inside, Naomi turned back toward the city. Below, the sun had climbed higher, lighting up the lagoon like liquid gold. Strange, isn't it? She said quietly. How something that started as a lie ended up saving all of us. Malik smiled. Sometimes lies have a funny way of leading us to the truth. She looked up at him, eyes shimmering. What happens next? He thought for a moment. Next, he said, you stop pretending to love a homeless man and start loving a real one. Naomi laughed softly. I already do. He leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from her face. The city's noise faded. The storm, the fear, the danger, all gone. What remained was something fragile, unplanned, and perfect. Their lips met, slow and steady, not a desperate kiss but a promise. When they finally parted, Malik whispered, You know, when you first found me under that bridge, I thought you were lost. Naomi smiled. Maybe I was. But somehow I found you, and that made all the difference. The two of them stood there, framed by the rising sun, the billionaire's daughter and the man who had nothing, finally free of the lies that had trapped them both. And as the light filled the sky, Naomi whispered the truth she had been holding since the day she met him. Sometimes the poorest man in the room is the only one rich enough to love you honestly. Speech balloon. And that's how Naomi Whitaker, the billionaire heiress, fell in love with the man she hired to play her fiancé, and discovered the true meaning of wealth. Red Heart, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful African folktale stories like this one. Backhand index pointing down, tell us in the comments. Do you believe true love can grow from a lie?